The Chaser Report is recorded on Gadigal land.
Striving for mediocrity in a world of excellence. This is the Chaser Report.
Hello and welcome to the Chaser Report with Dom and Charles. And Dom, I probably had the worst day of my life today.
I mean, we could talk about the terrible situation in Middle East. You got Israel, you got Hamas. It's terribly awful. But we're pre-recording this, aren't we? Normally we do the podcast shortly before it comes out, dedicated to that. But just occasionally, there's so much going on that we need to do one a couple of days in advance. So suffice it to say, it's probably still going. It's probably still terrible.
Yes.
People are probably still being killed. And that's
and
all
I
we're
think-
going to say. Let's talk about your life, Charles.
And I think the terribleness of my life pales in comparison to what's going on in the Middle East. But I also feel like we wouldn't be able to do it justice anyway.
Well, also, it has, let's be honest, it has more resonance for you. Your life, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
my life does, yes.
In the unlikely event you want to hear more, do it after this.
Okay, so,
You've had a very upsetting day.
I've had a terribly upsetting day, and the first part, which I don't even particularly want to share, but I will, is one of our pets died, and so that's really sad. It's just so sad.
So we're not talking about the terrible thing that's happening in the world that's sad,
Yes.
but we'll talk about the loss of your pet.
Anyway, so that happened this afternoon, and it was just horrible. But before that, so
Are you going to say any more details
I
at all?
don't
No.
want to. Well, it's just very gruesome. It's just awful. Should I tell you?
I mean,
Yeah,
you
okay.
started.
Yeah, okay.
You know what?
So-
if it's too terrible, we can always cut it out in the mix. Don't cut it out.
So the thing is, we've got this, as Dom knows, because he was around earlier today recording an episode, our blue tongue, our beautiful blue tongue skink called And the reason he's called is because when he said, oh, what's his name? You'd say,
That is the most Firth joke
Yeah.
I've ever heard.
Anyway, he was running around the house because he managed to escape. Usually he doesn't get out of the enclosure.
So there's multiple enclosures for reptiles and other lizards and things.
Yeah,
where we're recording right now.
We've got a shingleback, we've got a bearded dragon, we've got a python upstairs. But the skink was sort of running around. And so I, very nicely put a note on the front door saying, please make sure you don't let the skink escape and everything.
You were quite worried.
Yeah, I
when
was.
I wasn't here before.
But then my son came home and we found him behind the fridge, right? And so as we were moving the fridge to rescue him,
Oh no.
yes. So the best thing I can say is it was a very swift departure from this world.
Fridges famously very heavy things.
Yes.
Oh shit.
And I can't tell you, this is a pet that we loved. He used to just sit on our lap or, sit on our shoulder while we watched TV and stuff like that. He was a very dear member of the family. And just, it was so visceral just seeing this and
There's
his
not
blood
really
and everything.
Not really anything I can say
Yeah.
about that other than that fucking sucks.
Yes. So we had a little ceremony. We dug a hole and made a couple of short speeches and stuff like that. And that all happened this afternoon.
I guess this is the ultimate test for the way that you choose to live your life, Charles. And you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. Because you do usually look like a monster on the podcast, but you can opt out of it if you want.
Yes.
Did you find, when you were giving the speeches to pay tribute to your beloved member of your family, did you find the fact that you'd called the lizard amusing in the eulogy? Did you have to pause? Because I think we know our answer. We've always said that the line between tragedy and comedy is particularly thin in the Firth household. So you were saying, I just want to pay my respect to Charles Firth, ladies and gentlemen. Charles Firth. Let's have an ad while we take a moment to regain some semblance of composure, shall we?
None of the medical advice contained in the Chaser Report should legally be considered medical advice. The Chaser Report.
So anyway, it's very sad. But that was not the only sort of terribly stressful thing that's going on today. So we are, as we do every year, putting out the Chaser Annual again this year. James Schleffel from The Shovel does the other half of the book.
Yeah.
He got his stuff all finished days ago.
He's very efficient.
Very efficient.
He's a very good comedy writer. Like him and his team, they do some incredible
He
work.
doesn't have a team. It's just him.
Is it just him?
Yes.
How is anyone that consistently good all the time?
He's just a fuckwit, right? But the thing is, somehow I think James charmed the designer into prioritising him, right?
Oh,
And so
no.
she looked at this well-structured document that told her exactly how to lay up his side.
And it was presumably all finished.
And it was all finished. And she looked at my piling, burning mess of disaster and dysfunction and chaos and decided to prioritize James. So it's now like his is done. His is done. Whereas my side, there's still like, captions to write and images to fix.
This reminds me when I used to do this job pulling together the Chaser Annual at the 11th hour.
It's just horrible, right? And just goes on and on and on. It was due at the printers today. It is now 9 p.m.
And we're doing a podcast instead of, I didn't know you needed to do that.
Yes, and
I could have helped you.
Well, you were all stressed with your uni work.
Yeah,
so.
that's true. And here's the other thing, Charles. I mean, you could just have a shovel annual, couldn't you?
Well, I think it would sell better. So there's that. So
that's depressing.
Incredibly depressing. And also, it's going to drag on into the night. The designer's in London and it's now 9 p.m. She's gone to sleep. And the last thing she said was, oh, by the way, I've just emailed you the latest version.
How's she gone to sleep? Is it midday over there?
She's been working since about Saturday.
Working all night. Okay. Wow, you've really broken the designer.
Yeah.
Okay, I blame James.
And the thing is, she said she'd send it through several hours ago. It just never appeared. And I want to go to bed soon. It's just going to drag on.
If it was me, I'd be going to one or two.
Well, hey, do you want to do it? Do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I've got other stuff I got to do.
Okay.
I've got other work that's behind. Are you kidding me?
The last thing is, it's just on my mind that Christmas cards. Right?
Oh, Christmas cards.
So James, the fuckwit, has not just sent his Christmas cards, all novelty, funny Christmas cards. I'm sure they're like incredibly witty and everything to the printers because it takes a couple of weeks. to get them all organised.
They get really busy and backed up.
Not only that, but we've got this other brand called Wankonomics now, which we toured with at the beginning of the year. We're doing another tour next year. We just locked in our festival dates. And we're doing some Christmas cards based on all the language stuff around that, and they're really fun. But he went, oh, it's all right, I'll get them together and bundle them off. He sent them as well. So he's like lapping me in terms of productivity. And then I spent the afternoon while I was not editing this annual trying to work out ideas for Christmas cards. I got nothing. There is nothing good about the world. Like,
I don't think this is the day for you to have a jolly.
How do you
take
say,
on Santa.
oh, Merry Christmas, I hope your lizard doesn't die?
Oh. The thing I'd say, Charles, is that there is a lesson in this. It's a very clear lesson, just hearing this story from the outside. And it's not one that reflects well on you or me or any of us.
Oh, yeah.
Which is that clearly the way to run this sort of business is to have one person who is talented and competent enough to just do all of it themselves. He probably is the best comedy writer in the country if he's basically doing the whole thing himself, right?
Yeah.
And evidently just super organised and gets it all good. And he's a lovely guy, such a nice guy. Very handsome too. He's a really...
Yeah. He's the full package.
He's basically perfect.
Yes.
It's amazing he hasn't been signed up for television. Like, if you produce television, give him a show. He's the only white man in comedy who doesn't have his own show at this point. But it just means, Charles, you just need to find someone who's better at this stuff than you and just hand the Chaser over to them.
I have. His name's James. So we just shut down the Chaser.
No, don't shut it down.
I didn't shut it down.
No, just he can run both brands at once. Just both
true.
audiences, Sydney and Melbourne.
I think part of his brilliance is he doesn't bite off more than he can chew. Like, while he was coming up with his Christmas cards, I was probably like inventing a pull avocado or something.
I was actually saying to someone the other day, someone I know who's working on a sort of business project to simplify and focus on the things that actually work. Like do fewer things and do them better.
Yes.
And it made me think, I should talk to Charles about that because
I know.
But you have so many things on the go.
So how do I...
Well, there's two paths. There's two paths from here, Charles. So if you let me advise you, and I don't know why you take my advice because I'm not very good at any of this stuff, but option one is the James Schleffel option, where you have something you're really good at and you just do that.
Yes,
really well
and you thrive.
You thrive and they're just basically impossibly handsome. Like, if you don't believe me, look at the War on 2023 posters. I mean, Mark Humphries is also very handsome and very efficient. Like, you're surrounded by...
made a real mistake sort of buddying up to really handsome people.
And then there's Gabby Boltz in the live show too, and she's brilliant as well. So there's all these very talented people. But so that's one option.
And you can buy tickets to that at waron2023.com.
And is there a place in the messages that you can sort of mention this as a pity purchase? Because I think Charles would really appreciate that. That'd cheer him up.
To cheer me up, you have to come to the War on 2023.
Right. So there's that. So the Schleffel...
I promise I won't tell any sad anecdotes.
The Schleffel / Humphries option of just talent.
Being talented.
And the second option, and I don't mean this as not being talented, you need the Mark Fennell model, where you do 6 things at once.
Yes.
But you do them well. That's the tough bit. Yeah. And he has 3 podcasts. He hosts Mastermind. He's got a show on Radio National.
I have a theory about Mark Fennell.
What's that?
And how he does it.
I don't know. I'd love to know.
I have a theory that he hates his family. And you know how you see him on social media? I don't know whether you follow him on social media, but he's always like playing with his kids and you go, oh, fuck you. You're also a perfect dad as well. But I reckon, no, that's just another project. Because the only way you could get 6 things done well at once would be to completely ignore your family, wouldn't it? Like,
I know Mark a bit, and I'm pretty confident he's doing a pretty good job on that front as well. Is that reassuring? You know what you know what he isn't. I don't think he has reptiles.
No. Well, neither do I.
This has been a very sad day for Charles. So this is the pity episode. When I said we'd pre-record, this is a couple of days before. So Charles will have recovered somewhat by the time you hear this. He's not currently in complete.
I've got to completely change my life, don't I?
Oh, maybe a bit.
Yeah.
Maybe because you do always seem to be doing 1,000 things at once, and it does seem very stressful and annoying.
But what I don't understand is how does anyone make any money if they don't do 1,000 things at once? Like, I barely can survive. And
I don't know. If anyone knows the answer to this question, can you email podcast@chaser.com.au? I mean, I used to be a management consultant very briefly. I didn't do that job long enough to actually get any business insights. But, I mean, there are people out there who are specialists at making crap businesses profitable. There's an episode in this feed. Didn't we talk to Fred Shabester about this from Finder.com? He's an amazing tech entrepreneur.
But I don't know how to get them to actually, because they, like, I have conversations with people like that, and they go, oh yeah, you just sort of make $1 million, and then you just focus, and then you make $1 million, and you just be better at what you do, and you make $1 million. But it never then results in them sitting down with you and going, okay, well, here's how that debt will get paid the next day, based on this long-term plan to focus. How do you get out of the hustle so that you can be doing what you truly love?
I know what the answer is. I've actually just realised what it is.
We should drop the podcast.
That's probably the first time. No, when The Chase was created, and it was your idea originally, the thing that, and look, I might be over-egging its importance, perhaps, but I've spent a lot of my life on this project, but you created a thing, and this has been true in the newspaper, it was true in commercial radio, it's true in the web, it's true in almost every aspect, except it turns out podcasting, that you created a brand that has a huge amount of integrity and fondness towards it, but that is entirely unsellable. No one wants to sponsor it because they're too worried about being associated with it in case we say something edgy.
Yeah.
So basically, the thing to do is to stop doing The Chaser, do something with far less integrity that makes lots of money. The problem is you've had principles. It was very foolish, and you've lost a huge amount of money, as have we all, by having principles.
I think you're right. I think I should join the Federal Liberal Party.
Well, they're looking for talent at the moment.
Yes.
Because Peter Dutton's going to win this whole voice referendum, but at the cost of his Teal seats. Like, there's no chance he can possibly win government post the voice referendum. Isn't that right?
Isn't his theory that everyone will have forgotten, like everyone in the Teal seats will have forgotten about that by then? He'll have mortally wounded Albo, and then he'll be able to say, this is just chaos and dysfunction. And I reckon the line that I think is the shrewdest is Albo speaks big, but never delivers on anything. And that's because Dutton prevents him from delivering on things.
Well, hasn't Albo tried very hard to speak not big? Hasn't that been his main strategy? But Albo's got the same strategy, which is that in a year's time, when he goes to the election, we will have forgotten about the voice. Like, they could have had the voice referendum at the same time as the next federal election. That would have actually been much cheaper.
Yes.
Would have saved millions and millions and millions of dollars. But clearly the strategy was have it now, get it out of the way by the time the next election happens so we all forget about it. So which of them will be more mortally wounded by this? All I'll tell you is that as the polls have gone in No's favour, Dutton's gone down in the polls and Albo's gone up.
So I'd have to be a non-Teal lib. I'd have to be far right, sort of probably anti-trans, do you reckon?
You could be.
Yeah.
Could be. But I mean, you've got a strong family history in the Labor Party. Maybe you should be a Labor Teal.
Labor. Yes.
I don't know what the Labor version of a teal is.
Well, that's green.
The green. Yeah. No, but you could basically be the other extreme. You could be the kind of pro-Labor person that's very anti-Labor. Like, you could just make fun of Labor and then take their vote. Would that work?
Isn't that what the Labor Party is basically nowadays? They're just
a parody of the Labor Party.
A parody of the Labor Party. They say that they grew up in community housing.
Oh, that's what you could do.
And then they back in property investors and give money to AUKUS and stuff.
Can't you get them to give you like a Senate seat or something like that?
There must be. Maybe my sister can hook me up with something.
Well, this has been it. I hope you feel better, Charles, after this episode.
This is just the worst.
This is the perfect way to end one of the worst days of your life on the podcast.
I think what I'll do is I'm going to become the opposite. I'm going to do the George Costanza. I'm going to just
Oh, brilliant.
do the opposite of everything from now on
That you want to do.
that I want to do. So
you'll be voting no on the weekend.
no, but it does feel like first world blues. Like when you compare that to what the misery that's going on in the rest of the world.
Yeah, I mean, and even the people who are genuinely suffering with the cost of living crisis rather than just crap at running a small business like you. That's,
Yeah.
It could be worse.
I want to go back to the days where the government just handed out free money to businesses. Remember the halcyon days?
That is the
Scott Morrison?
Finally, we've hit upon a really good strategy. Bring it in another pandemic and lockdown.
Yes.
That way, there'll be free money for businesses.
Yeah.
People will be so bored that they want to give money to the chaser again.
Yes.
And maybe if you're not so busy with all this other stuff, you're just getting paid not to work. You could keep a lizard in slightly better conditions. I know you're hurting.
Can we put in some somber music as the outro for this? Because I just want to say a few words.
Curious from Road. We're part of the Iconoclast Network. I'm just glad I wasn't here to see this.